Okay, so that's the different right now, like yeah, the art system might be that the control system might be that the case that we can to like the channel system is basically the main being that the council as well as like all the masters as well as like all the normal being that the main white that the doctors are like in like a corner like state, even the stone are in like a corner like state um, to rework that system into that way by destroying that sound system as well as that bringing down that all the masters as well as destroying all the normal bits and that way to that reverse that the system into making it in such a way where like all of them getting cornered while in that all the darkness that take over like the entire festival and rule over like the entire festival. This might be like the this might be like the art system or like the reverse system, and that the art system might be the core name for that goal of that. This might be like the ultimate goal of that all the darkness. Might be less that to just which is like a couple of that I could form according to my vegetarian so the cutting that the importance of that the tower of heaven might be definitely due to that most likely the tower of heaven that like once that completed that most likely containing like control of that conference being built in such a way to that contain some sort of that and it's really powerful for the magic within it which might be able to like open pathways to that realm above like the clouds, where like fairies that where like the tribe of that fairies might actually exist in the human brain and that way to that control and bring that create like an arm of that fairy and to take control of them and basically to bring them down into like the human world and basically for like the darkness to like take control of us and create like an entire army of that fairy and to that I'm totally different like fairies might be choose from but like I'm different like Sacred might literally Sacred might be having like might unique mind for some sort of like a unique sort of mind control magic, definitely not brain research. So definitely using the switch might be how that's a brain Soros thought at person like me, even being that a council member, like the brain having some like being listening to that separate and everything, being in good terms with like separate, all of this might be most likely through severance like just like separate might control might which might separate which separate might also may not brain. So that using very same mind control might left the brain plan might be to like separate Jellal's left plan at person might be to like that way like using like unique maintain or magic to that take control of and create like an entire army of that theory that from like the realm about like the cloud that would be probably listening to that the orders of that Jellal in that way to that use both army and that very still might be exceptionally strong. Definitely when to that using that armor theories to that create like the arm system or like the other system by destroying like the council the remaining council members as well as like destroy pin down on the masters as well as like all the destroying all the numbers which might be glad Jalan's like current plan through that the tower of heaven might be like your different situations like a popular and the brain and brain. So like still sticking to my different impression that it might be more due to like Jalal's like extreme romantic fear towards like the darkly due to that the grace that base of that imprisonment by like the by those that gods who might have been by those that villains people who might be like darkly members might be like the page that name and friends so definitely by like doing all the sun basically that way just that way by helping out sit back then like separate of that post to that create just like building which might have definitely the tower of challenge which might have been in the process of that one to be built so that that way by helping those that stuff separate might be by building like things like Jabrin might be hoping that like at least at that point like those like sponsors stuff they lead us with the please but like Severin and that way like Severin like, at that point like those the stuff will lead us with the seeing Severin as like one among there are remember that dark remember and is at that point as a can actually will be able to like go and become that adaptive member and that way and that way from like the ring's perspective the ring might be thinking that way so second to be able to like prevent even the remote state of like possibility of that setting of like the dark skills like putting setting on beginning to like that in the kind of that state uh, which like settling had gone through in that person but might be along length of like the whole of like the definitely and the reason can like the doing everything of that doing by the definitely fighting the range right. Okay, so like definitely my consideration right now is that like basically separate my inactivity might not even care at all whether as well as whether that the construction of like the architecture which might be like the ultimate goal of like a continual operation of like the data whether it's like that goal is like things of becoming a surface of an basically about which like separate might not even care about the goal that you not understand. The only thing that the train might even care about might be definitely the completion of land out of heaven for that. The train might be only hoping that they will be the dark leaders, like dark leaders like the so extremely things with like the train that like they might most of the train opposition as like one of that the percent of like the dark might be along the lines of the different segment might be totally focused. It doesn't need much of and like getting there alone might be like the only thing that like segment might be even there about is definitely my personal effort. So yes, so that but the my personal ambition right now is that like in like the long distance ancient path like I'm talking about like Gundam stick results might have created and completed like the tower of heaven that might have that common man created that analysis of that it's a powerful very cool fight and bring down that the big desert. We like the long ancient process made of in the single bring. And at that point I can different that the at that point that the good result that could might have been that superior is stronger than that the less was like might have ended up with struggle to like defeat like the arm of like the domestic result solely due to that the substance of like the huge army of like especially powerful players on the side of the Guardians without maybe like the creation of like what might have happened in the game because the game after we get like the good players might have seriously struggle their way into like preventing such an system kind of like a scenario like the realistic without might have wanted to like take out like the role of like the world in that ancient through that second part that the fear is not collected and might have been what might have happened like the so basket you know to understand that it might have been the scenarios were like the good wizards might have a lot of like the good wizards might have gotten taken out in that swap and basically yet like the good wizards might have their struggle their way into that game still turning like the tires like the bad like still turning things around and basically still stopping educating and stopping that the domestic results and sending that the army of fairies and bring that the army of fairies on like the control of their domestic results. And basically that way that the army of fairies might have gone back to that the pitch like real about like the cloud might have been what might have happened in like ancient past new another about this like as like a legend or like as like a history or like story like I'm looking bring that even to the present like I'm looking there might be people in like the world of the and in like I'm looking there might be a great extent of that people mostly old people like who might be aware of like this pretty definitely might be very interesting. So definitely. And macro as well might be one of those that individuals who might be aware of that such a story according to my tutorial. And that story in that macro, it might have been scenario like macro hearing this like story and this macro seems extremely fascinated by like the concept of fearing might have been like the inspiration behind like maybe Black Macro even once Black Macro started like it was until Black Macro even deciding to like join like the fairy tale might be like the case like the possibility that I'm looking for the and the very ambition. So therefore that definitely my very ambition right now is like Severin as well as like Jellal might be that the very same person and definitely Severin might be such an absolute like that like Jellal is like Severin's length from definitely my preference. Like it might be a light that Severin might also to that to that get themselves from getting spot by that remaining council members and to prevent Severin from getting into that trouble. Like might be such an absolute like that Severin might also might have been like the case definitely would be yet like there might have been eyewitness of that Severin as well as that Jellal in like the same place as well. Might be like that with the mutations of liver flow. So like at least Severin might have irrespective of Severin might have managed to associate it after that getting paid from like the some kind of like state like and Jellal might have managed to eventually associate with like the task event like help in the last a lot of like definitely so different along the way like that way Jellal might have managed to like get hold of that whole lot of like with a match. So like that ancient like realistic wizard I think like he was like built during like the lullaby flute that so different that ancient realistic wizard like might who might be like setting game or something might be steadily helping out like the dark uh, on multiple occasions like understand that might have taken quite a like towards like secretary might have been gotten and that might have provided access to that secretary to that all purpose that unique and things of like software magic might be like the case that you know so like the mind control magic one strength might be one but software magic that like due to that ancient Hellenistic with our like taking quite a like into like several of like Zealand that might have provided us like that it might have been like the case that made my experience. So that that way one of the my secondary person that I'm considering that apart from that forbidden mind controlling magics that and the forbidden magic that with that surgery might have been that the unique forbidden magic to using like the grain might have been able to create like the clone and basically a clone version of that himself and basically being able to that remote control that clone might be along the lines of that for the magic power that the brain might be having the new web created. So definitely using that like and that might have been and this might have all happened after like the brain might have made it as like one of like the country numbers it definitely might be brain so that definitely eventually through that at some point like I'm just that by remote controlling that Jellal and that way that while Segre might have tricked that the his own that friends that to those Segre's that clone pretending to be that Jellal pretending Segre himself might have been also happened in the past that new frame which they definitely at present like the Jellal that's like at like the Tower of Seven might definitely be like the flow of like using like the unique magic like the flow of like secret remotely controlled by secret might be like the activating integration technique might be the ambition. So like according to my experience like might have been such scenario where like it might have been after like secret becoming one of like the consumers of that like secret while when to my iteration like remote control of that like that clone like while uh he was using his clone to that to something like a villain stick hack like the that up itself like something like the brain might have gotten like this like clone might have gotten might have been got like a happen certainly by one like the counting number of like one of like the normal guild some by some or like some of that one like the normal guild members might have been one like a happens in the brain so that way like the news that way such a news might have quickly made it to like the council that is the that secretary is like traitor and basically it's like secretly allied to like the dark guild and basically just like doing all those like villains act. So like at that point I'm different like secretary quickly to like state himself like I'm different like secretary might have quickly made up the life that basically that secretary and that's like Jellal like secretary like twin brother and that way like different like secretary might have and then like had to and at that point of reflecting like the council members still might have had like a efficiency of like separate and might have still not been willing to like produce cigarette and that way like understanding that cigarette might have so that cigarette at that point like maybe might have practice and not to like convince like the council members that cigarette might have even ended up that staging like that scenario where like cigarette might have fought against like second home song in like a stage manner and basically that way like while ensuring that there was like an idea to that and basically that way like in the bring that second might have manage to like convince his life that is which might be the case of the generation that like Jellal is like separate like uh, to uh, to like the remaining council members might have been what might have happened. Like the last the team and the transitions might be that that one thing might be relation and the fact that like Secretary doesn't have a twin brother and the fact that like Secretary himself is like Jellal might be that absolute secret of like Secretary that might know or especially might listen to the about this like Secretary is like those three games that you are about might be just like this definitely might be injury and that's right. Okay, so that we might experience which might know that we might be that the intensity and effect of that right exceptionally powerful that of that can exceptionally powerful that what kind of magic which might exist within that our kind of might see that the reason for that animals that also animals like moving close towards that our like getting taken off might see that the reasons definitely might put the empathy but like in the case of happy like even though happy is like an animal that can be different. In the case of like happy, that can differently, Liliana might have most likely taken care of that like and happy is like protected by like wearing front by making happy wear some sort of like magical item. Definitely might be bring it. So like according to my pyramid, so it's still in my pyramid that like in that the long dispensation of like the tower heavens might have been built as well as that might have been activated as well and that might have also the most likely that when in like the ancient past, like the major of like the animal life form in like the world of experimented and it's getting wiped out instantly the moment like that now and might have got activated. Might have been what might have happened effectively. Might have been okay, so let me invite us that I think the backstory and the thing that Jellal to like solely take the blame on to himself for like the attempted like escaping and basically that way that Jellal alone, like Jellal telling like the guards that Jellal had forced that his like friends had absolutely no interest at all. They didn't want at all to like attempt to like escape, but like Jellal had like totally seriously forced us to that escape along with like Jellal. My dear along the lines also with like Jellal totally nice to like the guard and that way like the guard deciding to that punish super punished like Jellal alone was like the scenario that that way while at the same time that making Jellal's like front like witness it so that like to have that fear second to all of them and certainly like never even care to like attempt another escape like and in that way like and even like and like the friend like Jellal back then might have witnessed that or Jellal going through the extreme suffering of that severe punishment might have been what has happened below branded. So like at that point like Jellal and was like and might have been cliche, but like at that very last point like I'm told and matter of saying a dialogue that basically to specifically to Aksa that basically that that what exactly like to what genuinely feels right for like Aksa might be along the lines that matter of at that point might have told about like the now that I'm super different. So like starting at that point might have been walking towards like Jalad and chronic like and at that point like those words of like fine with of like macro that might have made even without the courage uh to like only run towards like macro. And that way like I'm different like and that way like I'm different like Jalad and like from senior really shocked and basically like them feeling that it's like that's kind of to the promise and to the country and everything might have been what might have happened. This definitely might be the and this might be how that Asra might have joined that macro and there is this definitely might be very construction writer. And Jalal might have at that point that quote that Asra and things that from that basically if that any of them even attempt could have get that once again that it couldn't just end with that severe punishment but like it might even certain like either one of them or like all of them getting taken out by the that might be along the lines Jalad might have more than certainly one so like the common like never ever attempt like escape from that now things might get along the lines like Jalad at that point might have made his like friend promise to like Jalad might have been more than happen certainly one friend and definitely I'm looking like Jalad might have known them that they for them at least like they could like totally even though they are in that in kind of state like they can at least they are all together right now it's the thing might be along the lines like Jellal might have told us, and like Jellal might have told us that is the even if like there is like the remote biggest chance of less than being able to like attain freedom from like the last day, then that's only through if that they complete that this that cover excellence as soon as possible that they put in all of their effort into that completing like this cover of the heavens like even if it takes that great number of years that once that they will be succeed, if they succeed in that completing like the tower the building of the tower of heavens like maybe like there might there's like a remote probability of that like that only at that point like the last leave them मतलब even remote positive freedom might be from the collapses might be along the lines like Jellal might have showed them and to that Jellal might have also made them from like Jellal to like basically from that point on to like for them from that day on for them to like totally put in all of the focus and hard work into trying to like complete like the Tower of Heavens as soon as possible might be along the lines that Jellal might have made the all select from the Jellal might have been like the takes the film and might be at that point that like such an unexpected scenario of like macro and like the terrorists they like showing up and destroying the that person area and basically freeing like the person up and like taking out like the dark that's pulling up the guards that it might have happened to the damage. So like at that point I'm totally forgetting what might have happened might have been like some of like the among like the person of like understand like uh some of that great number of persons might have straight away ran away during that episode period of but like understand that at that point like Trustwell might have been absolutely happy. But like at that point like Jellal might have been might have easily gotten that extremely encouraged at that matter of might have been more than because like Jellal that hope and optimism like to the punishment might have both in the prophets obviously. Even at that point like Jellal might have thought matter of and left front flat like this like rate of the current rate of this only like the faraway points that is even if like they try to like run away right away like basically and all those like community prisoners that have all run away like basically they will all be usually once again getting captured by like the by the doctor God again eventually and basically that will be getting that absolute punishment at that point for that basically escaping right now would be along the lines of different that Gerald might have told us at that point certainly not so like among like the other prisoners like that might have been about to like run away like hearing Gerald's words like like they might have had that frustration and fear setting in at that point and might have a lot of like the remaining that remaining like prisoners who might have been about to like run away like might have stayed back fearing that due to that Jellal that was that creating that atmosphere within the and influencing the might have been more kind of happened to living brain. So like at that point like I'm like macro might have that has good that's to like probably convince like all of them that they feel that they are free and they feel that like definitely lacks the normal expected to like basically to ensure that that doesn't happen and they and even if such a worst case scenario happens like basically like the normal exactly like right now would be once again would be showing up to that save them would be along the lines of like macro might have try to like convince like Jalal, but like convincing Jalal might have definitely not only convince at all definitely might have and such and definitely like Jalal might have also mixed Indian race at like macro at that point, telling macro that basically right now solely due to that macro is like misconstruction and like basically taking out like the adaptive the like basically that then all would be eventually once they will be getting captured by that the renamed darkness and the plot of that darkness group that at that point that they will be getting the punishment for that matter of actions. At that point would be along the line. Then in race manner like I was referring like there are made out of like matter of might have been what might have happened, especially also in blood. Definitely at that point like yet like appearing macros like both like I'm looking that while Jalal and the left front might have not been something like still among Jalal front like it might have been a alone that might have been that once again tasting that the taste of like freedom like and the different that might have been totally might have instantly gotten something to that macros that word that is there might have been at that point feeling absolutely safe in like the presence of that macro but like at that so like at that point, I'm friend that matter of myself, so that Gerard and his like friends very excited to like join like the fairy tale guild and get strong so that like basically that basically like so that like they could like change like the future for like people like them like basically the lines on okay correcting that macro might have hold up so definitely that mutation number to bring like Jellal straight away he might have projected while Artha might have been totally desperately wanting to like join the macro and like the so that hope might have been like the only thing that like Artha might have had and it might have been forcing it and being perfect as well. That one is just middle again is so definitely at that point like I think that facial expressions like and so, like Jalal might have gotten impressed and persuaded like might have been one of the significant influence and Jalal might have told Asa to and Asa might have slowly might have been and like chasing at like macro and might have been slowly starting that walk towards like macro. But at that point, kind of looking for like what can be Jalal like and then praise Jalal like my shouting out at like Asa telling to like what she's doing that is me as she forgotten about like that from like the along the lines like shouted at like definitely answering so definitely I'm able to bring that at that point like and she made the point of like and her like man like might have walked back towards like Jalat and she's like trans like looking at that able to bring so and definitely the friend were like that severe punishment or anything like that severe punishment might have actually broken Jalat and his like hopes and his like optimism and his like hopes of ever being able to like escape from that the actual discussing on prevention that like after like the punishment like in Jalal might have been put back together but Jalal's might have been more than the interesting on prevention like at that point I'm totally putting Jalal who might have been in such that good thing that might have told his like friends that basically to promise Jalal to like never ever attempt like another escape uh, none of them could even ever even think of like ever getting from like the capacity of like the of that dance who might be like dark who might be part of like the dark will group is certainly an incident. So definitely like it might be at that point like Jalal who might have been totally broken like might have told that and all of them that it means that escape from like the dark will is like absolutely impossible. So like at that point number even like Nagaro might have held like hand firmly and might have walked away. And like at that point I'm totally putting like the extremely enraged and frustrated Jalal like basically shouting out towards like Abba that basically a tracer like Abba with like no more of their friends who get on the lines and then tracer with this man like that might have shouted behind Abba might have been what might have happened certainly it might have been embarrassing. So like and that rage and frustration might have at that point even also an extent of courage as well to like courage and determination as well to like to Jalal at that point as to like what to do next might have been what that happened depending on so like Jalal might have said away so it's like relation to like this thing that they are straight away going to that search for like the dark kid through the bringing down to like basically and basically that like Jalal has like plans might be along the lines like Jalal might have told it constantly on the train. So like that way like understood that even though macro might have definitely taken out like the end of it like the last from that like state like something that it might from that area from all the persons which might have been just like Jalal had taken that from that might have straight away head off to that point like other markets the clean and like they made out once they made out need to find it that the last interest like on the that that Sarah might have told them that they about like the dark leader might have told up in that group like leader like that the dark people like leader like I'm looking for that to be multiple staff leader then I'm talking like that specific group and the leader might have told up and like, at that point like Jellal might have told us that actually that he wants to like he wants to like create like the tower of heaven. He wants to ensure that like the tower of like heaven like complete completely fit. And in exchange that like in exchange in that Jellal will definitely help them and in exchange like they have to guarantee Jellal and his like friends like freedom might be either like their freedom or like in exchange like they have to like ensure that like we see that Jadal and his like friends are like permanent members of that party group. Might be along the lines of bring that Jadal might have told us definitely my thing very important. So that dark layer was definitely very important. So like at that point, like so literally like that dark layer might have enough that like Jalal for like Jalal like confidence and everything might have been like while like that dark layer might have felt that it was like as good or confidence of like Jalal is definitely not friendly. So the player was bring like that dark layer might have fade away even like the off faces like instrument to like fade away to put like Jalal and his like front into like a different kind of state. So like at that point, like Jalal might have told some like stuff and might have revealed like Jalal's like plan. Like basically that basically at that point I'm like waiting for like the Dark Brigade might have been like they might have attempted like or like the great number of years like they might have attempted at like building multiple Tower of Heavens, and each time like it might have been brought down and spoiled by like the novel, it might have been like their physics. So like at that point, like Jalal might have like shouted out in like the dark players that basically because like they don't have a proper strategy and plans that like they are attempt to figure attempts to like build like Tower of Heavens they might be around the line like Jalal might have told like the dark the players and so like so like at that point, like Jellal might have instantly might have revealed his left plan to the clear obviously that they need to like create like a bunch of decoy scenarios where like they have to like create like they have to the dark group has to like pretend to be creating like Tower of Heaven uh, at like specific location uh, which will be like more extremely easy, not extremely hard for like the normal to find. And for like the tasking group to that basically spend the attempt to like create like the downturn will be destroyed by like the normal games for like them to like once again like start again to that with another Tower of Heaven at like the locations that might that wouldn't be so extremely far away from that exact initial location. And for them to like continue this process for like 10 years might be along the lines that Jalal might have told that Jalal will do and that Jalal might have straight away confidently that told like Jalal will that like within 10 years like Jalal and his like friends will definitely in making that promise to like the last year about like within 10 years like that he will definitely ensure to that this like the complete like the building of like the Tower of Heaven at like a totally different remote location so that like basically while that the dark influence would be basically like creating like the Tower of like each time after like it would be destroyed by the normal like so that like the focus of like the normal would be around that specific area where like the repeated first of like setting of like the Tower of after like each person by like the normal would be happening so that like basically like so that like basically that Jalal and the second will take advantage of that situation to like create like the actual Tower events at like arena topic. So we free from like the radar of like the normal days. Uh, so would be along the lines that Jalal at that point myself so to mess it up in Japan. At that point then find that that's related like getting a movie job because like I'm made that things that that like that might have never even thought of that music. Definitely not created. So like at that point I'm so different that the might have taken like Jellal seriously when they're that much human again. But like the revelation that like it will take that like 8 years for like Jellal and like friends to like create like the present Tower of Heavens like it might have been like within like the span of those 8 years that like he like uh eight seven different Tower of Heaven which was that basically destroyed but earlier revealed that might be all parts of that this that strategy and planning of that Jellal whom will be definitely second as well. And also second, it's definitely my personal theory and person. So there's so that definitely my personal theory and my plan right now is definitely for like the revival to the second that after step this time to definitely be a purpose definitely on 300 and definitely the exact individual that I'm totally putting will be brought back I'm going to certain for to definitely team of like that exact villain stick wizard that basically that was like connected to that theory and mentioned during that the arc of that the lullaby flows up that embodiment that villain stick powerful wizard from the ancient past that has person like who might be only helping that dark will like providing access to that is the unlocking like the seal of like for the match and it might be like the definitely like I'm definitely for it to be that exact realistic with that from like the ancient past that I'm so liberating that for that through that the current Tower of Heaven that I'm delivering that Jellal and this might be like the goal current goal through like Tower of Heaven that for like the last to exactly bring that realistic result from the ancient past that that especially when it's limited and also think that the current will to Jellal said that doing exactly that itself uh, that's the scenario and that way like that villain like by the time that Nasu Emperor would be that finally succeeding in that destroying that Tower of Heaven like and by then like would be too late and then so different that the ceremony to be over and like revive system getting activated and basically that's extremely powerful that will just was out from like the ancient past that getting resurrected that way and brought back to life was like the scenario that I'm obviously and my friend. And also according to my different that it might be that exact realistic without itself that right now only putting might have that activated that just that built and activated that is the down in that long differentiation might be like the case that we might be in the range. So that we have and so that we have person like the council members that being really afraid about like the applicant might be that we do let them be strongly feeling of that at least the hypothesis of that uh, the exact individual being getting revived if that star system gets completed being the exact single for like realistic result. Might be along the lines of that strong feeling already the council members might be having this definitely might be for it to be exactly the result. And that exactly happening is like in the that I'm sort of think right now in my friends. So that kind of me about the my friends and so the friends of like in the scenario to be like the sacrifice of like ending up being not a requirement for that the after step to like get into the activation selection scenario that I'm referring because like I'm referring by then like I'm the make an intense pattern between like not going to work like Jellal and like the like the front like scenario that I'm looking over the front and definitely I'm looking that battle like definitely and as that intense battle would be progressing definitely I'm looking like Nasu definitely under some sort of like an ultimate of between like Nasu definitely when we will be talking with Jellal so like that should uh should like take a certain extent of like time to complete that basically that way like I'm looking that time like within that time like I'm looking like a lot of like animals like getting taken out, even more great number of animals getting taken out, and that way, like I'm whispering that eventually that by the time according to my information, definitely I'm whispering like that's when they definitely the saving and like saving and rescuing of like putting up that episode. Yet like that way, even just like us sitting save still like I'm whispering like I'm not whispering from Jalal also getting that full intense fight like going on, giving like Jalal enough time to be able to like might be activated actually with like the Tower of Heaven, like the half system, as well as like basically with like even within that time, if even greater number of like animals getting taken out, like in different like the art system getting activated even without the sacrifice of like during the scenario that I'm looking at animals for it. So that was in my Etherion vision, like the exact realistic for what this or that, which I'm probably something to be to definitely be getting out of that. And so listen that to be definitely is our certainly not friend. So that is our food we have the plans as for like all the just all the long list of things to do once you will be making this lateral return to that when you will be getting any sort of certainly my very impression. So like the game is pretty like shows like expectation like at that point I was pretty like the moment there was there like scenario that I'm and at that point like show being told the show as well as like so as well as like the 20% that are like all something so it should be placed and so we getting in that basically they will be able to like like the door and everything. But like I'm at that point so on the point like the straight away would be only having the might be at that point will be only need should be like you only need like the single subordinate and like that subordinate like something from the shooting like second range that we not which is like name is like at the moment will be showing up like that straight away like touching like Jellal and like straight away like simultaneously like like showing up to like the middle of like the room of like the council members with like the side of the different. And instantly at that point on the front that the moment like the will be touching like Jalal like totally hearing instantly as well. with the content control to bring Jellal to be like not Jellal to be only a clone of like Severin, which like Severin might have created through his like treachery magic might be like for some sort of like open magic to so like that way the moment Zara could be showing up front of like the company members, like at that point, like Zara select most likely create like that is the according to my mentioned that like the brain as well as like Jala that's one and the same. And like the brain was like tracking all of them the entire time and like the lead that maybe laughing a little bit laughing straight away like affecting like the brain. So at that point we'll be trying to like reinsert from like Jara at that point, I'm like, the friend like secretary would be least expecting the to like for right in front of like sort of in front of like in the middle of like the council room, stepping on the temperature. So like secretary trying to like escape from like the but like at that point self like the that quickly attacking secretary and basically leaving just like that. And at that point self I'm also praying for like most likely the scenario to be like secretary like like this like mind control which I'm whispering secretary might be having on like over daughter like and things that actually coming undone like the moment that Zarab will be affecting the brain and getting away with like leaving with like the brains like scenario that I mentioned. So like one of like the council members like to restore like at that point like the moment Zarab will be leaving like the brain would be returning back to some normal self and which is suddenly confused as to like where he even is in like front of like for the remaining council members like still in the scenario that I'm looking at. That way at that point like the remaining council members like only at that point like talking to realizing like great extent to which like figuring had lacked multiple times like trick that the entire picture until that in the scenario that I'm looking at different and get. So like according to my comprehension like separate the second through is like what might be this like flow of like Jellal like might have already done all the preparation necessary preparations for like the tower of excellence to be able to that properly and precisely to, to receive like the blast of the Etherion and basically for like the blast of Etherion to like interact with like the for the magic contained within like the tower and in such a way to basically for like the magic contained like the tower prevents to like absorb like the blast of Etherion and basically to redirect it in such a way as to like basically to that by converting like the blast of Etherion to intensify like the forbidden magic contains within like within like the tower event and basically to like that way to use that intensity enhanced intensity to like send it for like the surrounding areas to of like tower events to like increase like the range of like the range and intensity of like the forbidden spell contained within like the tower event might be along the lines of like the plan, realistic secret plan of like Severin might be especially my different so like this is what I'm looking for and exactly to like eventually happen and that way like I'm doing way more way great number of sacrifices like happening in a quick scenario and that way like the activation like I'm so different for the scenario to be exactly while like the blast experience would be sent that and would be landing on like tower activity that like I'm delivering like the requirements of like the sacrifice would be complete and basically like instantly like the tower of heaven and like the system like will be instantly getting activated and like the reception of like the would be happening with like the eventual scenario that I'm looking at yes, so like definitely I definitely rate comparison right now that like the activation process of like the tower of events might be an extremely long one might be like active situation minimum period. So like that it might be most likely the activation of already having begun. That might be the reason for like all those animals like getting taken out close to great number of animals getting taken out close to like the tower games might be due to like the activation of already having taken exactly enough damage. So definitely the activation situation might be like once like the activation process begins like affect our begins like then like if anyone tries to like interrupt or stops the activation process of like the tower games, then there might be like the consequence of like an extremely huge explosion, especially that would be wiping out like everything close by. Uh, Not just everything in like the tower, but everything when nearby to the tower might be like actually the situation, the minimal tradition. This might be the reason for like that only at present like badly bonding like with the some friends like the fairy tale this group to like Nasu and Grand all of them to like leave like the South Africans as soon as possible. So that you know the famous thing right now that like in like the backstory like sorry like it might have been right or one of like the two like dark mages leader or like I'm supposing like it might have been another mysterious like leader that means leader who might have this purpose might have been present in that like present location like the backstory. So I'd always like a plan like those might have been completely unaware of that who might have been monitoring like everything happening in like certain location like the building progress of like the tower seven and everything secretly from within that person gave like areas that might have been the case that monitoring. So like it might have been not like that darkness might have felt that like a sort of like a rebellion like against strength and like the possibility of like the destruction of like the of like the subsequent setup of like the building of like the Tower of Heavens like basically all getting destroyed like basically through this like rebellion once like that dark later might have seen such a possibility like it might have been a villain a scripted villain strategy that we might have used because like we might have had access to like control of like a forbidden uh, mind controlling magic might have been like the case the human friendly dark mind controlling magic and actually might have had so supplement family using with it like we might have at that point but like the ultimate villain strategy we might have used it to destroy like and like the rebellion teams like mobile like we might have used that has like we might have done it in that Minecraft things like Absa and teams have Absa and friends also had seen like Jellal as like the as their leader like earlier about this like Emperor and staff maybe leader might have been benevolently aware of so like to crush and destroy the of the morale of the rebellion like a might have been a villain that he might have used in times to that and might have used that mind control magic to uh, control like Jalal might have been what might have happened and to like use against like the rebellions definitely not three epics. So the William was bring like in like the rebellion once like and team the rebellion team might have made it towards like the location where like Jalal was like Jalal's like tied up in like at that point I'm totally for them making it to that location and at that point I'm totally for like Jalal to tell them that is need to stop the rebellion that like it's like impossible to like take like this the measures that they need to like stop uh, their rebellion that even if they escape right now like it should only be a temporary escape that basically like eventually this dark measures would still eventually end up like capturing them and one can make them prisoners and at that point like they have to go through like the extreme consequence of like the punishment of that basically the current rebellion uh, will be along the lines of the different like and if they stop now like then like they might have that reduction in like the intensity of the punishment might be along the lines of the different like the range like that villains take like dark knight was there while hiding might through his like just likely what might have been his like remote control mind control of like secret might have made secret say all the to like crush like the morale of like the sign like the rebellion team might have been like the case with women so like that way like I'm different like it made us easy after like the moral was uh, of like Hassa and like the rebellion team was like the scenario that I'm different and at that point is when I'm different like the tide of like the made us started to change in change in like the favor of like the mage like that was like the army and the dark mage like the scenario that I'm different so like that way like I'm talking like without necessarily like on that you know like I'm thinking like the rebellion team might have been defeated and like they might have all been like gotten captured and like at that point, I'm discovering like the guards might have been about to like punish one of the then there was a single one like the rebellion team. And at that the last second might have been when like the unexpected like end of like macro and like the fairy tale skills might have happened and actually so that that they, even at that point like even while I think like it was like macro that had like that and like destroyed like that tower of events like certain location like they uh, at that point like I'm so different even then like I'm different like macro might assume that like he has like taken out like all the villain sticks like dark mage that will remember kind of but like I'm still that dark yet one of like that dark mage leader might have still managed to like survive and might have still been hiding close by but that aspect still and might have been still remotely control secret might have been like against the minimum pyramid so like after like a macro kind of freedom and at that point like document happen might have been definitely like as a macro failing as a and all of them to like to come with like macros like the scenario that I'm thinking about so like at that point I'm looking like still even at that point like there might have been that extreme relief from like a first price of that basically through macros like intervention like basically with like the location that for like basically like some might have been at that point finally feeling that like she has finally got some freedom, but like there might have been also that extreme system that where like totally being confused as well like like they confused as to like why this like extreme change in like Jellal might be like the name of the frame. So certainly at that point, Aksa might have done perhaps would maximum to like convince that Jellal as well as like the friends to like basically for them to like say to even go with like that they finally got the freedom of that. So get on the lines like Aksa might have done perhaps we continue to like convince them, but like even at that point, I'm the frame like it was with like a remote mind control of like Jellal by like that. Leader, dark mage leader, which might have been like the case that you know because so like Jellal might have been repeatedly saying this very exact pilot that basically this only a temporary freedom that basically like even if like they feel that like they got the freedom like it because it's really like more dark mages would be showing up and that will be once again capturing that can be the punishment would be like severe for like escaping if they escape right now would be along the lines of the spring like Segrain might have kept on saying until eventually on the spring that maybe Segrain might have ended up like influencing like the decision of like Segrain friends and like Segrain friends might have eventually felt that there's like meaning to like the things that Segrain I mean like Jalan's like saying might be along the lines like Jalan might have and that time felt Steve will start to feel certainly my friends in that way that way Jalal might have influenced that across the front and basically like where the front might have decided to like take instead of like taking like the fear might have rolled over them to like fear created within them solely by Jalal might have resulted in like them deciding to like stay with like Jalal and basically that Jalal might have been telling them that basically that now they should like go find like the remaining dark mages and basically should like they should like totally apologize and basically should like totally agree to like complete like the Tower of Heaven and basically it will be only once they will be completing like the building of the Tower of Heaven that like they will be actually getting their actual proper permanent freedom might be along the lines of different like through the remote mind control like and different like that will stick like the leader of the dark mages that might have made like Jalal said might have been like able to independently that way Jalal friends might have gone for that part and might have decided to like stay back while Arsa might have definitely not been able to like bring herself to like totally listen to like the words of like Jalal and definitely Arsa might have that way and at that point like Jalal might have been saying all sorts of things like trying to like affect their emotions like basically by telling that like they are that their friends and friends should like stick together like basically along such line like in different like along such line Jellal might have been keeping on saying something on saying so like that way eventually understood like that's so they might have definitely decided to like go with like macro might have been one like like act of like this decision of like us alone some like that from the young like us alone like basically taking the decision to now stay behind with like Jellal but to like go with like macro that decision of like us might have been what like been seen as that absolute betrayal by like by that Jellal front might have been at that point might have been like the case that lead my realization. So that according to my procedure system right now, that and so different might have been that the very exact sort better felt according to my which like this that makes leader might have steadily placed onto onto like Jalal that like and since that might have been controlling Jalal even to like the person who like the secretary at like the council might be actually Jalal that we might be three understand that he might have just like that age of like leader might have had like other magical skills or like might have attained access to like other possible magical skills with this which that he might have created like a clone of like Severin of like Jalal and might have like created this like dual identities of like twin brothers of like basically Jalal as well as like Severin might have been what might have happened definitely might have very interesting and as well as like so like even to the person like I'm like Jalal and Jellal or like Cyprian might be actually innocent and might be uh, genuinely a good person, but like might be even to the person under like the control, remote control of like that secret villain stick like dark agency leader might be like that 20th of integrations of human brains. So like it might have been the very exact same spells that he might have used to like control Jellal that he might have also used to like control Furu's daughter as well and might have gotten Furu's daughter as well to like the council footsteps that way. So that remote control might have been what might have happened. Definitely my injury. I'm question might have. Okay, so that I definitely want friends right now that is about like the realistic sharpness of chart might have permanently taken away left eye side of one of like the eyes of the cancer or some might have been what might have happened and like definitely since then I guess even to like the person like some might have managed to like put in like the effort to like ensure that like this posted information is remain a secret from like the remaining predator guild members because like definitely the last thing after my want might be that the secretary of from her friend in the membership. So definitely Efsa might have done her absolute best to like hide that truth information from that the inductive like the remaining priority skill numbers and might have actually succeeded in it except for like solving like the case of Black Panther and like senior priority skill members case alone like and that they might have had like such exceptionally high observation skills that and just by seeing that the body language itself of language and which even if body language you might have done with just to like hide it, but still I'm from the exceptionally high extra observation skills that and don't it might have been just like the senior paradise guild members like each and every single one of them might be alone that might be aware even from like the first time they might have seen uh, to let the person work and the person work might leave them alone that might be aware of that just like total factor company to like success definitely will represent this might be like the sole factor for like even after even with like like extreme hard work and diligent effort like still I think that remaining as like the weakest among like the senior parental guild members like that. It might be solely this like this kind alone might be like the actual justification definitely might be very important. So that according to my popular person that yet like each of like the senior parental guild members like including macro might be secretly having like the utmost respect like even that might be secretly having the utmost respect to like abstract and basically, this might be the reason for that them even to the person that most likely might have kept that crucial information that hidden and that was secret and like being exactly that being able to like understand us and basically that going along with it and teaching that crucial information about us as sequence from and that the remaining paradise members might be like the case like about the that